Been through some things, ups and downs some days, but I'll call your name. This life I walk in faith, darkness not a slave. Jesus has my gaze, but I've been feeling prayed out, trying to find a way out. God, I need your help now, come show me. I've been trying to run away, feel like going in my head. Feel like sitting up in God's bedroom, making music I don't talk to them. Remember when I used to puff? Now I'm chilling with the Most High, and I can't even get enough. Can't keep going to what I used to know. Lord, please hold my hand as I go.
Welcome back to As I Am podcast with Ray Netley. This is season 1, episode 3. And today the topic is dealing with imposter syndrome and feeling unworthy. And then I'm also just going to give you some tips on maximizing your single life. Just some tips that come to heart straight away because I didn't really write anything down today. So first things first, dealing with imposter syndrome and feeling unworthy. This one is very near and dear to my heart, something that ever since I could remember, I literally have struggled with on finding and building up my confidence over the years. When I say ever since I can remember, I want to say even 4 years old. Going back to why I probably had this issue, coming from a divorce home where everybody was just so focused on what was going on with the adults that they didn't really focus on how the children were feeling. It's one of the reasons, and we had 7 of us, could have been more, but we had a couple of them that were stillborns and stuff like that. So stillborn and miscarriages. So we could have had like 10 kids. So coming from a big family, it's kind of hard for parents to focus on each individual child, and it's probably one of the reasons why I've chosen to not have as many children, because I wanted to be focused on my child, and being the second, being the second oldest, I do feel like, there wasn't as much attention on me, to be honest, but I never asked for it either. Just because my personality type is very independent, even when I was a child. So I didn't get to experience certain things that, a lot of my brothers and sisters, they have a whole different outlook on things. And it's kind of hard for me to talk about it without feeling like I'm throwing people under the bus, But I will tell you, when you have so many kids, it's just so hard to focus on one. And sometimes 1 or 2 children may feel like they're overlooked. And that's how I kind of felt in friendships and dating, just very much so overlooked, but not realizing it was because I was already looking at myself as being overlooked. Your mindset is one of the number one things that changes the way people look at you. It's so weird because there's moments where I might go through a breakup, right? And I would notice that I feel overlooked again, or something like that, like in the dating pool, And then I would look the same and dress the same, but I'd feel overlooked at that time. It's because that my vibration, how I'm feeling about myself is so low. Like the energy that I'm giving out is so negative and low that's what causes you to be overlooked. And even if you try to fake it, which is, imposter syndrome, trying to fake it, it really doesn't always help, because everybody can still feel that energy on you being negative. And sometimes it even causes you to self-sabotage, and I had a lot of issues with self-sabotaging as well, acting out too much on my emotions and stuff like that. But I noticed that my mindset is what needed to change on feeling unworthy. And that's something that I still struggle with, because if I go through a breakup or even a friendship ending, those feelings just come back, and I have to dig deep inside and pull myself out of that pit again. And it is definitely a constant battle and struggle. And I'm not really sure, if I'll completely leave that one day. Um, but I know God can restore that too. So I can't say that I will never. According to the psychology world, um, which is why I just have, I believe in God more than I believe in science, because I'd like to believe in miracles. And there's so many things that a lot of science cannot explain because God cannot be explained. As much as we want to try to explain him and put him in different boxes, he cannot be explained. And I like psychology and things to a certain extent, but sometimes I need a miracle. I need a miracle worker, and that is God. And so, with that being said, um, I will tell you that a lot of parts of me used to that I used to identify with, I've kind of gotten myself out of that. And sometimes I look back on some of the stuff I did, and I just be like, I can't believe I used to do that. I can't believe I used to feel this way and act on that feeling, from dating and everything like that, the insecurities that I had in dating and the insecurities that I projected onto my partners and the insecurities I used to even choose a partner, because usually when you're operating out of insecurity, you're going to choose from a line of people, unless, some people, they get blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, and they're able to find a secure partner out of that. And maybe I did too, but I self sabotaged it. So I don't know. But I know that the people that I ended up with, they had insecurities too. They weren't like mine, but they were similar in terms of their insecurities wouldn't help a relationship become healthy, So that's what I want to say about that, is just with feeling unworthy, it's really about your mindset. And right now, that's why I've taken the time to get closer to God at this time of my life, because I knew I needed a miracle. I was just listening to a ton of psychology stuff, and it just felt like it's not helping. And I do believe in therapy, and I really honestly and truly cannot afford therapy in my life right now, to be honest. So I have definitely taken the time to listen to stuff here and there with therapy, and I still will be seeking out a therapist. No matter what, I'm just, trying to do it in a more um, smarter way financially, I guess I should say, because their therapy can be very expensive. But I also am trying to, at the same time, heal my soul and my spirit, because they're all connected: the body, the soul, and the spirit, as well as eating more healthy. Because it's crazy how we don't realize what we put in our body is also energy. And um, that dictates even the way you think sometimes. And it's so crazy how all this stuff is in the Bible. God warns you about what to eat. God warns you about what you're looking at, what you're watching, what you're initially doing, who you're around. All of those things kind of coincide, and that actually does impact your worthiness as well. So that's another thing. Being careful who you're letting around you primarily, because they can determine how you see yourself. And as much as you want to say, oh, I'm too I don't know, I'm just so different that I can't be influenced by people, that is such a false statement. I'm sorry, like, whoever thinks like that, maybe you're not easily influenced, but if you're hanging out with people, or if you're in a relationship with a person and they are saying the same things over and over again, thinking the same things over and over again, or their energy is a certain way, you're going to be influenced at some point. And that impacts how you think of yourself. it also shows what you think of yourself, because if you keep allowing certain individuals around you, how are you really feeling about yourself, you know? And that's another thing that I also have been taking more serious, is who I'm allowing around me and in my space, and how long they're in my space, and what they're initially saying and teaching me by what they're speaking, because you learn from them and they learn from you. And that's kind of how it should be. Like, some people who think like, oh, I'm the leader of everything and I teach them but they can't teach me, that's just mm, it's also a very almost narcissistic statement to think like that, to be honest. um but that's just my own opinion. I'm sorry if I offend people with my opinion. No, I'm really not sorry that I offend people with my opinion, but if I offend you with my opinion, you know, maybe my podcast isn't for you. But that's just how I think. My opinions do grow, like, and they can change, and they can grow uh, with time, and I'm always growing. But that's just how I think about that. It's a very narcissistic statement to think that a person can't impact you, but you can impact a person. You know, like, we teach each other stuff all the time, you know. But anyway, unworthiness, feeling unworthy is just, you know, all of that. And I had something to say about imposter fit syndrome at the time, months ago in like September, when I wrote this. Um, when I wrote down all of my subjects I wanted to talk about. Um, there's been many times in my life where, like I said, I had struggled with unworthiness. So I honestly faked it a lot. Like, I faked my confidence and everything. And at some point, it got there. But then, you know, when something happens and you see where you're lacking, you know, and then after a while, I started to realize that I got to start from the bottom. And what's in the bottom, I mean, I got to start from inside, not outside, you know. Like, I remember years ago, I was struggling in my marriage, so I wanted to feel better about myself. So I then started to keep myself up a little bit more, making sure that my hair looks great, you know, making sure that at all times, making sure that my clothing looked great at all times. And that was me, for me, stopping, you know, that's what I would consider imposter syndrome, because I really wasn't feeling it. But the more that I sat in that and I portrayed that woman that is put together, it made me feel better for a while, until a breakup happened, you know. And then I felt unworthy again. And then for the past, I want to say, 3 years, I have literally been trying to just wholeheartedly and completely focus on my mental. And in the process of focusing on my mental, I realized that I had to start even deeper, which is why I've been working on healing my soul and my spirit. Because, like I said, everything's connected, and it's so crazy how what someone physically like does to you, like the outside world, when I mean like physically, uh I don't even know how to explain it, because it's so hard to it's so hard to explain how I think, but I kind of think very complex, and how the physical goes to the mental, and the mental goes to the um initially back to the physical, then to the spirit. You know, like, for instance, when I went through what I went through in my marriage, I realized that my heart was getting cold. Like, my heart was cold. And I realized that it was affecting me mentally, because it then caused a lot of anxiety. Like I really start having anxiety attacks so bad because I didn't feel like I could trust not a soul around me. Um, I just feel like everybody was coming for me, and still to this day, I still kind of have certain moments where it feels like that. But seeking God really truly is kind of helped me realize that even if people are, it's not really about me. It's the spiritual world. And other people, that don't believe in the spiritual world, click out. This ain't for you. But it's really in the spiritual. And a lot of people, just like me, how my heart was cold, I could have taken out a lot of things on other people. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what people are doing. You know what I mean? So that's why it's getting easier to forgive people, because what people are doing is what they suffered with, because they couldn't forgive that person. They're carrying that with them. So they're carrying it and pushing it onto the world. And that's what happened. And nowadays everybody wants to be a victim, so in their mind they're the victim, not really realizing that they're being the antagonist in other stories, in other people's stories. An example that I can even give is our childhoods. So generational curses around childhood. So you get abused as a child, and so you don't forgive, so then you cause some type of abuse onto your children. And because you're thinking you're still the victim from your childhood, not really realizing you're now the new antagonist in your children's lives. And that's one thing that I've been working on with my child is it is really a challenge to forgive for me. And I really do think it is a gift for people. It's a gift that people have that can forgive quick, because it is hard for me. But what is making it easier for me to forgive now is realizing that I am not a victim to anybody. And I can be an antagonist in someone's story, whether it was to do what was right for me, whether it was to do something that I didn't realize was wrong initially, or just something that I didn't realize. Like, I was thinking about a relationship I had in college, and um, we were just both really toxic to each other. And a lot of things I did back then was pretty embarrassing. And after that relationship, I was like to myself, I never want to feel like the antagonist, the evil villain like this again. And as much as I'd soon realized that we were both quite toxic to each other, I don't really know who's more toxic than the other one, because there was I was watching something like just like last week about signs that your partner is abusive, and there were some of those signs in there for me. Like I was like, ooh. I was just watching it like, Lord, I was the antagonist in that story. And there was some signs in there for him. So it's like, gosh. And all I'm thinking now is like, God, I don't know if I'll ever really truly be 100% healthy. I hope I do, but I don't want to ever intentionally do that, because some of the stuff that I was doing in that was intentional, and it was about control. And I'm like, yo, so that's one of the things that I've been doing about that. And in that relationship, I felt unworthy. Like there was something deep in me who knew that he wasn't for me and I wasn't for him. But instead, no, I'm going to say I knew that he wasn't for me, right? And I guess I kind of felt like I wasn't for him, but that's just because I struggled with worthiness. But deep down, I knew he wasn't for me. And I projected that into, I guess, me not being for him. But at the same time, I really don't know, because when I really think about it, we just weren't compatible. But a lot of it was initially because I was like, just felt unworthy, in that whole relationship. Like I didn't feel like that relationship, but I didn't feel like I was worthy for, I had, I didn't know my worth in any of my relationships. I didn't know my worth in any of my relationships. The last relationship I was in ended in 2020, um, and didn't know my worth then, but I had just came out of my situation, being married. Well, not my situation. I just came out being married, so I didn't even sit with myself like I should have even longer. I should have really sat with myself, and I knew I should have, but because someone offered something that looked better than being alone, I was just like, yeah, and knowing I should have been like, I don't think I should really be dating right now. You're cute. I did mention, because my cousin got us together, I did mention that you're attractive, but I should have still just really not gotten to that relationship and sat with myself, because I knew I didn't feel 100% okay. Like, for one, I was smoking so heavy. So terrible. I was smoking so heavy then. Like, I just was, I just did not want to be like here, Like, I really didn't want to be, I really didn't want to be sober, really, to be honest. I didn't want to be here on earth, really. Like, I wanted to be alive, but I didn't want to mentally be here, because what went down in my marriage was a lot to handle mentally. And I had a daughter, and initially I'm a single mother. Um I'm not even gonna go that deep into it, because I don't like to throw people on the bus. But initially I'm a single mother. He is around, but I'm a single mother, so I handle a lot of stuff by myself on my own, and kind of always have. Um, but it was just a lot to mentally handle, going from this idea that I would have a life partner to initially never really having a life partner, number one, and number two, being by myself and accepting the very bare minimum, and even thinking like, am I worth anything? I mean, I got married and the person didn't even really propose with a ring. I never had a ring. Um, it was just something that I wish I would have had asked for more, because that's the thing too, is knowing your worth, and knowing, and it's more than financial, but knowing how much somebody should actually have to fight and give to you, and knowing what you can give back, because you should never give more than you get. I feel like that part should be equal in a sense. And knowing when a person could do a lot more and not give you the bare minimum, and knowing that you don't have to accept the bare minimum just because that's all they have to give. That might be more than that, might be the maximum for some woman out there, but it doesn't have to be for you, you know. And yeah, so in my single season, some of the things that I have been doing, one, haven't really been talking about it, but I'm abstinent. I have been struggling with, because God's been talking to me. He's like, wait till marriage. But I ain't gonna lie to y'all. It's kind of hard. And I'm like, well, what if I disappointed and I just do, disappoint God and I just do it? So should I really wait? But right now I have been abstinent, and I kind of been thinking, yes, it should be to marriage. I, um, I have been praying a lot more. I have been thinking of things to do on my own, going on self dates, and I kind of already was doing that before, even I was married, but I've gotten back into getting used to my presence by myself. Like, I really do love my own company now. Like, and I really don't like hanging out as much as I used to, because I get too used to other people being around, and then all of a sudden I feel lonely when I'm home, so I'm calling them again like, what you doing? And then all of a sudden one day they don't answer the phone because they have something else going on. And then And then I'm like, okay, so maybe they don't want to kick it with me no more. And half the case it's not the case, but still, that was my struggle with unworthiness. So now I've gotten more used to being by myself and loving every moment of being by myself and saying no to people initially with if I don't want to hang out, because I now like myself a lot more. I think I struggled with being by myself because I don't think I like myself all the way. Like, and I don't really know how to explain it too, but if you can't sit by yourself, you have to question why. I get some people are extroverted and some people are introverted, but you got to question yourself on like, why can't I sit by myself? Because honestly, um, being needing people around all the time is not very healthy because you'll what it like I'm just gonna give an example. This is very dark. I know it's very dark, but it's kind of deep. Like, even if you were to get married and you end up losing that person, because one of you guys, death to us part, right? One of you guys are gonna die at some point. You just hope it's when you're old. But even when you're old, like, like you just never know what will happen. So now you have to start all over, and now you're going to initially probably pick a partner, a bad partner maybe, because you don't want to be alone. So it's best to get so used to being with yourself that even in your marriage, you're still used to being with yourself, but you still, of course, have that opening for your partner to come in, but still being used to being by yourself because you never know what happened. Then also, we all have a choice. We all have a choice to stay in our marriages. And you might choose to stay in that marriage no matter what, but you don't honestly know what another person will choose. And so what happens is, if you're so attached, you might do something out of your character to keep them in that marriage. And we don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Because even God Himself doesn't make somebody love Him. We choose God, right? All the people in this world, and a lot of people aren't choosing God, but we chose God. We chose to follow His calling. We chose that. So, and I forgot who said that, but it was so beautiful. They were like, I didn't want the love. I didn't want love to be obligated, and that's why He gave us free will. So you shouldn't want your partner's love to be obligated, as well as friends and stuff like that. Love is not an obligation, it's a choice. And so you have to get used to being by yourself and comfortable in it, and not feeling like that means that something is wrong with you, that you may not have someone to kick it with or something. Like, if you're in your we call it was it a desert period, is it? I think it's called desert period, but a wilderness period. And I've had a lot of those, and I used to think it meant, once again, about my unworthiness, and I made terrible choices to have somebody around in those so that I wouldn't feel that. But then, what initially ended up happening? I still felt alone. So now, because I have the ability to choose instead of someone um, dropping me as a friend or breaking up with me or something like that, it just feels so much better that I have that power to choose myself instead of choosing to um I don't know what word I'm like, just choosing to ignore that wilderness period. I embrace it. Man, I embrace it because I'd rather feel alone than feel alone in a crowd. So that's some of the things during your single period that I would suggest is going on self dates. Finding a club to join, and one of my associates was telling me about that. Like, she had joined a farmers like kind of thing, and I was like, yeah, that's beautiful. Meeting new people from those groups. Um, Joining a church. I've just started to join another church. Like, God called me to it like back in October, and I finally just, like, recently in February, or January, February, I think I started being like, you know what, I'm really gonna actually go to this church. Like, I'm really gonna participate. So I signed up for like reading and stuff like that. And then I also want to go to like events and stuff, like busying my time on how I choose versus how other people choose, or waiting on someone to call me back, And that is definitely no shade or tea to anybody, because I honestly don't have any hard feelings for someone who wants their time on their own or don't want me in their space at that time. Like, that's another thing, not taking it personal when someone doesn't want me in their space at the time. Because honestly, I have moments where I don't want those people in my space either. Your space is such an important time, and there's just some people bring energy that can be very draining, and that's not saying anything bad about them, but to you it can be very draining. Like, that energy could be very what do you call that, it can help energize someone else, but for me it can be draining, because our we just don't align, we just don't mesh, we don't believe in the same thing, we may not believe in the same God or something like that. So now we're arguing about religion, and you're like, you know what, I really don't want to be around you right now, or they're throwing shade at the type of stuff you believe in. So you just need your moments where you can be to yourself. But yeah, what's another thing that can imagine? Oh, reading books um to help you with some of your childhood trauma. Like I said, in therapy helps 100% too, because it connects the dots for you. And sometimes you may be already connecting those dots. That's why I said I wanted to go back to therapy. I am trying to find a very more sensible, like, financial way to go to therapy. I'm gonna figure that out, don't worry. But I've definitely gone to therapy over the years, and they definitely helped me get a help me with my worthiness, because connecting the dots and making me realize that I'm not alone, that a lot of people are going through what I'm going through, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. There's just things that have happened to make me how I am, but there is still solutions. And that's why I believe in God too, because the supernatural powers of God can help you with those solutions as well. Like, it really can. Just really getting into um, meditating on God's word and meditating with God, hearing his voice, hearing him speak to you. You know what I mean? Like, he's been really communicating with me through dreams lately. But yeah. So, what else? Um, do not, one thing that help maximize your love life is not dating so casually, or for me, not having a friends with benefits. I tried that, be honest with y'all. Never worked. Not one time does it work, because sex is energy, and you're giving away your energy to someone who initially doesn't really care a lot about you. And I don't know, for me, sex is such a beautiful and transformative thing, that you connecting your soul to another person just for the heck of it is a waste, because you're gonna get emotions from it. And if you don't, I mean, sis, you probably do it too much, because if you can be that numb during something so intimate, like, your vagina and your penis is one of the most sensitive. Oh, I shouldn't say that on YouTube. I wonder if they're gonna. I mean, your vajayjay and your peed is one of the most sensitive parts of your body, and you're entering her inside her body, and you're taking them inside you, and we think of it so casually, and then we wonder why we're struggling with depression. We're struggling with a lot of people that are very that are highly sexual, I mean sexual, they usually are the type of people who are either just kind of narcissistic, I'm gonna be honest, psychopathic, they can't really feel much, and or they're depressed a lot. And nobody wants to talk about that because they don't want us to shame anybody, but they're depressed a lot because you're doing it too much and it's just so casual for you. It's like this is nothing. And it really is something. And that kind of stops you from healing because you're really more focused on your actual acts instead of healing inside. And sometimes reserving that energy can really help you create other things, and it could really help you use it in a better way than focusing on when the next time you're gonna get it on, if you get what I mean. So that's another thing that's kind of helped me a little bit more. And then also I realized it also it helps me with red flags. Like it helps me so well with red flags. You know? Like some men out there don't just want your body. Some of them want your mind and everything like that, and not for a good reason, but just to control you. And it started actual. You know what I mean? Like some women think, oh, if he just want to F that, if he just wants to bone, then he just want to bone. And sometimes some men want you to be in love with him, but yet they have no true intention on giving you any type of love, just to control, so you think that's love. And that's just going to break you more. That's not going to help heal you. So so now you're caught up in this because he knows how to make you explode in many different ways, yet he doesn't really know how to love. So you're confused, but he does love me, doesn't he? I guess if you define love in certain type of ways, but I have such a high expectation about love. I don't take the word love lightly. I don't love lightly. Everybody I've loved, I would have protected, even though like men are supposed to protect you too, but I would have protected them. That's how I love. And if they would have protected me, I don't know. Maybe protected me to protect their ego, but I don't know. So I don't take it lightly. So then, and that's why I don't share my body lightly either. But yeah, that's one thing that I really think has helped me during my single season is saving. And there's been many times where I've tried not to, but I think it's in God's plan to be like, hey, listen, keep that to yourself, Teresa, because it's never helped you. And it is hard. It really is hard to sit in this and knowing that I'll have less options because I'm not giving away my cookies. But it's easier knowing that I won't waste my time. Whew, I'm so glad I haven't wasted my time because I feel like I fall in love so easily, and a lot of times it is with the idea of a person, so I don't know how real the love is. But I fall in love so easily, and my emotions, my mind, and everything gets invested so easily. So it's really helped me to be abstinent. And it also helped me be more creative and think of more things I can do, like this podcast. It also is helping me realize my worth. Because to a lot of men, that's all a lot of women are worth, and they don't really realize until you make them realize you're worth more. You know what I mean? And that'll be up to them if they stick around to see how much more I'm worth. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's all I really want to say. This has been one of my longest podcasts, but thank you guys so much for listening. And please like, share, subscribe. And I'm really excited because I know I'm lame, but you're like, y'all, I was so excited that I had 100 views on my first episode. I don't know if people just clicked in and went somewhere else, but I was still like 100 views. That's dope. But anyway, so please subscribe so that if you're listening and you like at least some of the things I'm saying. I also don't mind chatting in the comments and let me know what you like, you don't like. Let me know if you don't agree. I know my brother, I was speaking to him and he was talking to me like, I really don't agree with that point. I'm like, all right, sure. I don't mind giving a little debate on why I think you're wrong too, but I don't mind that. Just do not be in my comment section calling people idiots and stupid and being disrespectful, because we don't do that here. We're children of God. We don't give out hate, we give out love. So yeah, like, subscribe, and share, and be back next week Thursday for more. Love you guys. Mwah.